Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This guy right over here next to me, this is Tim. And today we're going to talk about some amazing stuff that came out of SCOTUS. And as you guys know, Second Legacy is the place where we break down much deeper all the things that are going on in the gun world. We provide some amazing analysis, and then Tim talks a little bit, and that's what we're going to do today. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And with that, Tim, you liked that intro, didn't you? I worked on that
Yeah,
for
that's
a
pretty
while.
good.
That's good. I'm pretty proud of that.
Is that what you did with your
Pretty proud
your
of
your 4 hours on your
that. Yeah.
flight? Was
Yeah.
work on that
Yeah, I
intro?
did.
Good
Yeah,
job.
I was really figuring out how can I really stick it to the man, and that's what I came up with. So I look forward to hearing you guys' thoughts in the comments. But I hope that stung because I meant it to sting a little bit, but not too much, just enough, like a bee
It's
sting.
annoying. I'll probably, when I get down to Vegas, I'll probably spit in your food while you're in the bathroom or something like that over lunch, but we'll see.
Wow,
We'll see
wow,
how it
that's
wears.
you went there, you went there. Okay, we'll see how it ages. All right, well that's fair, that's fair. Well, safe travels when you do,
You're
but
gonna get up and walk to the
you know
restroom and take all your food with
something
you.
happened. Exactly. I'm just gonna take all the entire
What
tray.
are you doing?
This $45
Yeah.
hamburger. This is a $45
Okay, I'm sorry.
hamburger. It's
I'm on
worth
the rumble
every
strip and
penny.
we
I'm
haven't even
taking
got
it with me.
started.
That's okay. That's how we know it's great. It's Friday. It's Friday because
All
we
right.
get to take a journey, Tim, a journey together into the SCOTUS. We don't get to go there very often, but I think the clips that I'm about to show you, because I streamed it and I recorded it. Um, the stuff that was said in here is going to make you smile. I am so excited. So, because I like you so much, as always, do you want to listen to Gorsuch first, or do you want to listen to Kavanaugh first? Because both of them lay waste. What would you prefer?
Which one created the bigger stink when they were appointed? Was it Kavanaugh? They accused him of
Kavanaugh.
everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, let's go with
Oh,
him.
yeah. That was Kavanaugh. All right. So before we go into this, let me kind of lay the groundwork for you guys, just in case you happen to not be aware of what was going on in this. Chevron deference was basically put forward in two different cases. Chevron deference is the tool that means executive bureaucracies can interpret congressional law however they want to make their own laws whole cloth by changing things like definitions. In our world, that would mean things like pistol braces or frames and receivers, things like readily convertible. They take little phrases and they redefine them to get their indesired means. That's the idea, right? Well, Chevron deference came in from the SCOTUS, and some of the things that we're about to hear are in reference to that. So, without much more setup here, can you throw Dr. Button Pusher number 6, the first clip from Kavanaugh?
A few questions. I think the other side's argument suggests that the basic analytical concern at the heart of Chevron is that it treats law as policy, and that that's antithetical to our constitutional structure and the rule of law.
Yeah. Wow. He
Uh-huh.
said it.
Be more
See, look,
clear.
folks,
I mean,
the
could it
reason
be more clear? It is.
Yeah. So the problem that Chevron creates, and Chevron was the name of the case, and then the whole deference thing is giving the authority to these bureaucracies to basically make law out of whole cloth. And so you have laws that are passed that are somewhat not clear, a little bit ambiguous, perhaps. And so it was decided years ago that these agencies that these laws were handed off to enforce could use their discretion in trying to interpret the meaning of the law. And that has turned into these agencies just making new laws up that have nothing to do with the original law, but they cite that law and say, hey, we got deference and there's nothing you can do about it because you gave it to us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how we
Right.
get things like bump stocks are legal, bump stocks are legal, bump stocks are legal. Oh, sorry, folks, they're illegal. Turn them in or you're going to prison. Braces are
Mm-hmm.
legal, braces are legal, braces are legal. Oh, you know what? We changed our mind, folks. They're now illegal. Turn them in or go to prison. This is the mess it creates, but
Right.
it also creates a mess in another way in that you have different administrations come in. We just watched this happen. So you have the Trump administration that has a certain set of policies and his bureaucracies behaved in a certain way. Then Biden comes in, literally with a stroke of a pen, erases everything Trump did and all the things that the agency said during Trump's administration. And now Biden's administration issues new proclamations that completely reverse things.
Yep.
And so this is
Yep.
creating a huge problem. And that's why the SCOTUS is involved.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exactly. And
And
it's
this is what Gorsuch were
incredible, the
talking
stuff
about,
that
I
we're
believe.
about to cover. Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So that's what they're hitting on. And keep in mind, this is something that's not talked about a lot, Tim, and you and I have touched on it. The reason that Congress allows this to be a existing thing for so long, because it's been in place for 40 years, because Congress is beholden to the people. If they put something that the people don't like, they'll lose their jobs. However, if they write a completely ambiguous statutory law, they say, well, it's up for the bureaus to interpret. Now the bureaucracies are making the laws from what Congress deliberately was ambiguous with in order to avoid political fallout. This whole game, the deep state, all that stuff you hear about, that's kind of what you're talking about. Like when they're referring to that, that's what you're talking about. Now, Kavanaugh seems to be really onto something, and that was just the setup. Now let's go to number 7. I got 2 more from Kavanaugh.
Discussion of this would be taking power from the executive and granting it to the judiciary. Because a different conception of this, of Chevron, is that it's taken power from Congress and shifted it to the executive and allowed the executive, in essence, to unilaterally make policy without Congress. And one of the concerns historically from the beginning of this country was unchecked executive power. And you hear presidents criticized all the time, whether it's Roosevelt or Reagan or Bush or Obama, are criticized for exercising unchecked power. So the concern is about Chevron and us ushering in aggressive assertions of unilateral executive power. And that's the concern that I think the other side has, not about the judiciary taking power, but the judiciary having taken it from Congress and shifted it to the executive, contrary to our usual concerns.
Boy, I mean, that's what we've been saying all along, right? It certainly sounds like they're going to destroy Chevron, but this is exactly what we've been saying, folks. Basically, what Chevron allows to happen is that they're usurping the power of Congress. Congress is supposed to pass laws. Congress is supposed to be the accountable body. So if we don't like what they do, we can hold them accountable by voting them out and voting someone else in. But when a bureaucracy takes over, Congress passes some law, hand it off to the bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy exists forever. The people there aren't elected. They're appointed for life. It's almost impossible to fire them. And they're the ones that go out there and basically take the power of Congress and say, you know what? Thanks for that law, Congress. I know this isn't what you really intended, but boy, I think we can shoehorn it into this. And then they come up with a brand new law. And this is being done under executive authority. That means people like the president and stuff like that can direct his agencies to do whatever they want. And so they get to create new laws. We watched this happen during the Biden administration transition. It happened in real time. Like the day he took office, he started undoing things that the previous administration had done. And it's not just, I'm not just picking on Biden. I'm saying all presidents do this.
Nope.
And it creates a huge mess.
Yep. But the thing that gives me so much joy in this is you are hearing this in the highest court in the land. This is not some politician in a local office. This is not some congressman complaining on the House floor. This is literally one of the 9 justices of the Supreme Court saying this. And they're not parsing words and dancing around it. They literally are saying, you are not, because the judges who lean to the left on this, the left appointing judges, were saying, well, I'm concerned that the judiciary is taking power from Congress or from the executive at this point. And Kavanaugh responds and says, no, the whole problem in question here is the executive is stealing from Congress. That's the whole point. It's not judiciary from executive, it's executive from congressional. That is so key to understand. And I think you nailed it. That's exactly what we've seen.
Here's what I'm scared of is he's going to read all this stuff off and we're all like, yeah. I've been through this once before several years ago. It was when James Comey took to the cameras and outlined every single crime Hillary Clinton had done, every law she had broken. Like, yep, she did this. Yep, she did this. Yep, she did this. Yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going to indict her. And then he goes, but I'm going to recommend that no charges are filed. Like, what? Wah, wah. And that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen here. Like he's basically laying out the case against Chevron. And then, it's like, but yeah, right. But in the end, this is the only way the Republic's going to work. So therefore, you go ahead and keep doing it. Well, I hope that.
But that was a member of the bureaucratic state, though. That's the whole point. That was a member of the bureaucratic state. Comey, the head of the FBI, was one of the executive bureaucracies you're talking about, right? So this last one, Kavanaugh has one more. And if you thought Kavanaugh was direct, wait until you hear what Gorsuch said in a minute. But let's hit number 8 real quick, Doctor.
Which is, there was talk about democratically elected political branches, but I just want to get your agreement on something that I think you'll agree on, which is the role of the judiciary historically under the Constitution to police the line between the legislature and the executive to make sure that the executive is not operating as a king, not operating outside the bounds of the authority granted to them by the legislature. Do you agree that's proper judicial role, I would assume.
Yeah.
Interesting. Tell
Yep.
me more.
Right.
Okay, we got one.
It certainly
That's
sounds like
one
they're
who
getting
is
ready to
leaning
strike it
against it.
down.
Right,
Yeah.
it does. No, exactly.
You always have to wonder what
So-
the other justices are
So
thinking.
that was Kavanaugh. Oh, well, we're about to find out. We're about to find out right now. Because keep in mind, the people on the court, the ones that are kind of questionable, left, right leaning, kind of wishy-washy, Kavanaugh, ACB, and Roberts, right? Those are the ones that
I was
conservatives
gonna
are
say
like,
Roberts.
I just don't know, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Roberts was kind of just there during this hearing. He was kind of just facilitating it. He asked some kind of stupid question about a truck and all that kind of stuff. But Clarence Thomas came in here and he was, in his deep, like booming, like, I'm going to wreck you voice was like, well, this seems dumb. And Alito had some basic stuff that was going pretty well too. But Kavanaugh and Gorsuch specifically, let me get into Gorsuch because Tim, I think this one is going to resonate with you because I know you pretty well, I think this one is going to hit something pretty deep for you. So let's hit number 3, Doctor, and let's see if it gets it.
Chevron, you emphasize, is value neutral, and it'll sometimes favor industries that are regulated and sometimes favor the government. And I can certainly see that in scenarios where we talk about the flip-flop of administrations and new people come in and replace others, and there's a lot of movement from industry in and out of those agencies. I think George Stigler talked about regulatory capture. And I don't worry in a Chevron regime about those people. They can take care of themselves. Okay, there is political accountability, fine. The cases that I saw routinely on the courts of appeals, and I think this is what niggles at so many of the lower court judges, are the immigrant, the veteran seeking his benefits, the Social Security disability applicant, who have no power to influence agencies, who will never capture them, and whose interests are not the sorts of things on which people vote, generally speaking. And there Chevron is almost always, and in fact I didn't see a case cited, perhaps I missed one, where Chevron wound up benefiting those kinds of peoples.
Wow, that's powerful. Going to the everyday American and talking about how Chevron negatively affects them. It's pretty powerful. I mean, you have to agree with what he said,
and
But
he nailed it.
But you know what else I thought was interesting? He pointed out the incestuous nature of the bureaucracies with industry, right? Like those people will come and go. They'll move out of the industry and go into government, go out of government, go into the industry. We see that all the time. I mean, think about companies like Colt, where they would hire generals, so they could get more contracts and all sorts of stuff. So you see this incestuous nature between corporations, business, and government. And what he's saying is they'll always take care of themselves. It's the little guy that Chevron really leans on, and people don't typically vote on these policies. And so there's no accountability, and it's the little guy getting squashed by Chevron. Pretty interesting take.
It's to me, that was one of the most powerful pieces because that's exactly what happens. The people who, let me take another angle on that. Think about the ATF and the struggle that we do every day, Tim, right? What we talk about the ATF making up what a frame and receiver is, what a pistol brace is, what's an SBR, what's not. The people who are going to end up in jail or being fined these inordinate amounts of money, it's not SIG, it's not Remington, it's the everyday people who get pinched. That's the whole point. That's the fight of this, because when you're looking at complete blanket immunity for your decisions and you're looking at complete anonymity from a congressional perspective to the bureaucracies, the people who are going to get screwed are the people, not the organizations. And that's what he pointed out so beautifully there. And that's why we fight this so hard. It's not about, I want this gun, I want that gun. It's about what is the government being able to do to the citizens of which it's supposed to represent through these executive bureaucracies.
Right. Absolutely.
It's so powerful. And that's just the first one, dude.
Let's get into the other ones, because I'm loving this so far.
Go to 4.
And it seems to me that it's arguable, and certainly the other side makes this argument powerfully, that Chevron has this disparate impact on different classes of persons. And I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that.
Sure, and I have a couple of different reactions to that. One is to say that I, of course, acknowledge that the way that Chevron operates, it gives effect to agency interpretations, even in circumstances where that might be oppositional to some of the categories of individuals that you're identifying. But if it does that in accordance with Congress's intent and wishes, because even my friend agrees that there are certain delegations that Congress can make to agencies and certain gap filling that agencies can do, at least with the broad and capacious terms. And at that point, it's just putting into effect what Congress decided. So I don't think that there is any kind of fundamental flaw in giving effect to Congress's statutes in that regard.
Left open the possibility that a judge, if left to his own devices, would say the fairest ruling is in favor of the immigrant, it's in favor of the veteran, and it's in favor of the Social Security disability applicant. But because of a fictionalized statement about what Congress wanted when it didn't think about the problem, the government always wins.
Well, I think there are.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly. The government always wins.
The government always wins because Congress didn't think about some problem and they just passed a law so that they could get it through and say, look, we did something. And then the executive bureaucracies hit those same people, the disparate impact on individuals. That's the whole point. To hear this in the Supreme Court, dude, for me, and I saw this in some of my comments when I was covering it, it gives people hope that you're actually hearing something represented, that something's wrong, not just you're wrong, you're being negative, you don't like your government. No, something's wrong.
Yeah.
It's,
And what's so weird is it always seems like those on the far left embrace things like this. They want to embrace Chevron because that's how they get their policies enacted. They can't get them done legislatively, so they want to game the system, and then they want to get their policies done through the back door, like through using Chevron through bureaucracies like the EPA and things like that. Well, we can't get legislatively done to mandate EVs for every American in the United States, so we're going to do it through bureaucracies. We're going to mandate that, by 2030,
Right.
all gas-powered engines are going to be illegal under what U.S. law? Well, we don't have law, but we have Chevron.
right.
And that's why we're seeing this being
Exactly.
discussed now. It's not because of our 2A rights. This is because of bigger things,
Nope.
but it's going to benefit us if they make the right decision.
100%. 100% agree. In fact, I don't have the clip in our notes here, but there was actually, I believe it was Ketanji Jackson Brown. She actually came out and said, I'm really concerned that the court is not going to be in a position where we're just creating policy. Bro, when she said that, I screamed at my computer. You can watch the live stream. I was like, Roe v. Wade. It was just like, what,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? Oh, it's so bad. But we have one more, and this is the coup de grace
Oh, yeah?
right here, number 5.
I think there are a couple of different ways to come at that concern. One is to emphasize again that if it's not just that in the exercise of discretion, the court would think something is fairer and fill the gap that way, but rather the court thinks actually the reason it's fairer is because I have a sense that Congress spoke to this. I can determine it based on all of the tools. You can resolve that at step one.
That doesn't work, though, because you've said that it doesn't matter whether Congress actually thought about it. And that,
Yes.
and that there are many instances where Congress didn't think about it. And in every one of those, Chevron is exploited against the individual and in favor of the government.
I don't think it's fair to treat that as an exploitation. Congress has been aware of the rules here. It could change Chevron at any time. It could displace it if it thinks that it's being used in these circumstances where it's not warranted.
So, actually, no, sweetie, it's now before the Supreme Court, and they're going to decide this. Because, as you said,
Right.
many
No,
times
100%.
that Chevron is misused to benefit the congressional person because they can say, wasn't us, that was the bureaucracy. That's not the law we passed.
Yep. And the way that he said it's being exploited for basically political gain, that is so solid. When you look at everything that we just showed you guys, from Kavanaugh to Gorsuch, these things weren't just benign addressing of an issue. These were all very specific. Like when you talk about Gorsuch, the little guys being trodden on by the executive bureaucracies, that was a big point of his theme. It was exploiting people and the power of the executive bureaucracies. Congressional overview wasn't in place because they were ambiguous on purpose. And then you had Kavanaugh coming in here saying, we don't have kings. Like, you can't just have overreaching executive authority. Guys, we can't make predictions, but judging off of those two pieces right there, that looks pretty good.
I mean, there's always the chance of a Comey, but let's hope that they don't do that. Let's hope that they.
That's true.
Because many times the justices will think out loud, and you think that you know which way they're going, and then they issue a ruling in the complete opposite direction. So you just never know. You just never know. But it certainly
Yeah.
sounds like they
Well, we'll know
understand
soon
the
enough.
problems with Chevron. Something. Yeah, we'll know. Yeah, I can't wait. I just truly hope, man, if they strike Chevron down, that's gonna,
Oh, dude.
boy, it's going to change our government so much, because over the last 40 years, it has been so misused, increasingly so every year, that
Mhm.
if they have to go back in and undo all those, Chevron determinations at these agencies, it's going to cause a little bit of chaos
Yeah.
for a while. But
Let's
it needs
go,
to be
baby.
done. You got to rip the Band-Aid off at some point. You can't say, well, it's too painful to fix it now, we just got to live with it. No, you got to go ahead and get that out of
Nope.
there.
Nope.
Yeah.
Let's do it, baby. So now, Tim, we've gone through the SCOTUS. We've gone through two justices. I think it's that time. I think it's that time for the infamous the G3.
All right. Well, this one's a little bit fun. So, Phoenix Ammunition, they're local, and I hope to run up there and see them maybe this summer. They're not too far from me, just a few hours away. But I follow them on X, and they made a post. They're always, talking about, whatever ammunition they're working on that day, and they make some, political posts around the 2A stuff. But they made this post, and this guy chimed in. If we can throw up number 9, Doc. So you have Phoenix Ammunition talking about this recent flap where the anti-gunners want to ban military grade 5.56, right? So you can have 223, you can have civilian grade 5.56, but they're going after Lake City for some
Right.
reason, right? So that's what this discussion's all about. So he throws this up, and then it's not so much his post that I think is funny. It's My Name is Jeff's post, which we think is funny. Now, I got to put this
Mhm.
out there. There's a very good chance that My Name is Jeff is a troll account, that this is them being sarcastic, something that I completely appreciate, this type of humor. Or it could be because we can't really tell, this person's a serious anti-gunner. I'm
Right.
leaning towards a trolling kind of sarcastic post, but it helps make the point that we've made here many times on Second Legacy, is that the anti-gunners, if they don't have statistics, they'll just make them up. And that's probably what he's calling out here. So if you read My Name is Jeff, it says, you should be ashamed. One of those bullets kills 134 Americans every 6 seconds. So the first thing I take away from that, which I think is funny, is like that one bullet comes out of the closet every day,
Yeah.
kills 134 Americans every 6 seconds, then goes back to bed. One
Yeah.
bullet, folks. But then Braden started running the numbers, and this is where we actually come into the belief that perhaps this is a troll account. Braden, why don't you break down the numbers of what this
Yeah.
one bullet does to 134 Americans every 6 seconds? What's that translate to?
It's a lesson in efficiency, Tim. Well, thank you for the throw up. Let's go here. So I was observing. Tim really liked the one of those bullets every 134, but I was really curious about the math on this one. So it turns out, Tim, upon my calculation, that if that one bullet did indeed kill 134 Americans every 6 seconds, that means that we would have 1,340 people dead per minute. That's a lot. And then per hour,
Yeah.
we would have 80,400, which is also a lot. We'd have 1.9 million per day, and the final tally per year would be 70 million people. So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah. That's pretty impressive. So clearly the numbers are fictitious, and I do believe they were meant to be humorous, and they truly are. But this, to me, just kind of illustrates the ridiculousness of sites like the Gun Violence Archive or K-12 Shooting Database. They just make things up
Mhm.
to fit the narrative that they're trying to push for the day. And this would be a
Right.
classic example
And you know
of that.
the thing about that, Tim? But the thing about
that?
that, man, is I looked at that, and you and I both did, and we were like, I can't tell. Are they serious? Or are they not serious? Because the stuff that we deal with
Right.
so frequently is that a real point? Or is it, if I
Right.
can't tell when I'm observing things between parody and your actual talking point, and I have to truly analyze what your perspective was, you guys might be doing something wrong on the gun control side. If I cannot tell parody to your real points, there's an issue.
Right. Yeah. And that's what we have here, folks. And yeah, so I thought that was really good. We got one more. We got one more from our good friend Davey Hogg, and he threw up a tweet that I thought was really interesting. Number 10, Doc. So Davey said, despite the fact that the annual death rates for sepsis, which is like poisoning of the blood, and gun deaths are nearly equal. The U.S. government spends over $1 billion on sepsis annually and only about $25 million on gun death research. While many are divided on what to do about gun deaths, we should be united in blah, 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 whatever. More ramblings. It's got cut off there by the 280 character word limit, I believe it is, for X. But the point being, Davey appears to be calling for $1 billion to research criminals, killers. What would $1 billion do? I mean, keep in mind, folks, these are tax dollars, right? People on the far left have no problem throwing big numbers out there. Like, well, hey, we want to do this and it's only going to cost $14 trillion. We should invest in the future. Like, sounds great. Where are we going to get it? If we ran our finances like the government runs its finances, can you imagine having a meeting with your wife? Like, honey, wow, man, we were at a $5,000 deficit every month. What do? We have no way to offset that. What do we do? The logical thing would be to cut expenses.
Spend more.
Then you apply the American government logic to the formula, and you just go, we're $5,000 in the hole. Let's just spend more money. 5,000. Let's make it 500,000. What difference does it make? It's only a number on a piece of paper. There's no consequences. So here he is calling for $1 billion to be spent on trying to understand violent criminals. Do you think that's money well spent?
I noticed, Tim. I don't know. But you know what else I noticed? This is key. If I'm looking at that graph, Tim, according to Davey Hogg here, everything to the right of gun violence on that graph would mean it killed more people than gun violence. Wait a minute. I was under the impression that gun violence was the bane of all existence, and if it just stopped, we would have nothing. I mean, like, there's nothing worse than gun violence. But according to your chart here, and this is why I love what you and I do, is because you looked at the money on the billion and the 25 million and what he was talking about, and then different things jump out to me: lung disease, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, influenza. Oh my God, cancer, heart disease,
sepsis.
All of those things.
It's a little bit more. Liver disease is right there.
Oh
yeah. Oh look, the beaties.
This is
the beaties.
Hold on.
Worse.
What's down there at the bottom, Tim? Does that say falls?
Oh, that's
Almost
really dangerously close.
Violence?
Falls.
Hold on a second. That doesn't make sense
telling.
because I was told, I was told that all of that was non-existent because guns are the single cause of the entire problem in our United States. They should really look at things before they post them. They really should.
Yeah, that would definitely seem to kind of defeat his own arguments right there. I'm glad you took a look at that chart because, like you said, I focused in on the dollars. Like, let's just spend $1 billion and try to figure out why people shoot each other. Okay, I don't know what the return on investment there is going to be. I mean, because all he's looking for, make no mistake, is $1 billion spent to justify taking your guns away. That's what he's looking at, right? So, bringing up the whole chart and the fact that gun violence is like dead center. And look at all that stuff to the right. I could have swore gun violence was the #1 killer of Americans, especially children under the age of like 6 months. It's crazy.
It's weird.
What do you know? Maybe he just needs to take that yellow dot. I mean, this is how it works, right? Just get into Photoshop and move that yellow dot all the way to the right. Good to go.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to.
I mean, that's what the Gun Violence Archive would do.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Second Legacy. Please share the link. Let your friends know we're out here trying to fight for the Second Amendment. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.